Sasha Martinengo.
Storming down the pit lane.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time on bulls.co.za.
First of all, okay, let's just be honest about this. I don't know much about horses besides the ones that live in engines. They've got 4 legs, and some of them run and jump. Other ones look pretty and prounce around, and the others jump over fences and those kind of things that I've seen. But unfortunately, I think South Africa has been ripped apart because 2 days away from the Olympic Games, we have, in my opinion, a fiasco that has taken place between SASCOC and the South African Equestrian Association and the Court of Arbitration, all about our entrant that was meant to be in the Olympic Games. So joining me on the show this afternoon, we have Suzanne Rudham, who has been part of the support team for Paul Hart over. Suzanne, how long have you been part of this support team to try and assist him, I suppose, in the funding and logistics of him getting to the Olympics?
Hi, Sasha.
Hi.
We have been involved with Paul since he qualified to go to the World Games in December of 2009. And from that date, we have been raising funds tirelessly for him to be able to go overseas and compete for our country.
Okay.
Paul actually lives in South Africa. He competes here all the time, and he actually goes over every couple of months or every couple of weeks to go and compete his horses overseas in order to compete at the Olympics for his country.
All right, Suzanne, you bring up something that's very interesting. So he qualified to be part of the Olympics sort of in 2009, but that wasn't a guarantee, though, that he would be in the Olympic team. Is that correct?
No. What it was, he qualified to be able to participate in the World Equestrian Games, and thereafter his campaign moved his horse Heartbreak Hill, which is a South African bred thoroughbred, to England to be able to qualify for the Olympics in 2012, which he has done. We have to be clear on that. He did qualify, and what has happened is that he was selected as the rider, and in equestrian, the athlete is seen as half the rider, half the horse, because a person cannot go around a cross-country track and jump the horses on his own 2 legs. He is dependent on his horse.
Yes.
And it would have been a very proudly South African moment for us, because it would have been the first time in the history of the Olympics that a South African horse would have competed in the Olympics. So it is a huge deal for all of us in the equestrian community here in South Africa.
No, which I can well understand. Now, I've read the South African Equestrian Association statement, and you have kindly sent me through what SASCOC has had, and then we just had in the news with Di about the Court of Arbitration, where they have made a decision. Now, please, I'm going to try and go through my timeline. You tell me where I'm wrong, or just stop me. The way that I see it is that originally this Alex Peternel, was he the original person that was going to go to the Olympics?
He wasn't. What has happened is, obviously, we have a whole lot of qualified riders that have been eligible to go to the Olympics.
Okay.
We have 3 that are actually here in South Africa, but because of the African horse sickness quarantine issue, none of them could get their horses out in time to give them a fair chance to be able to qualify to ride in the Olympics.
All right.
So there are actually 5 qualified riders, one of which is Paul Hart and one of which is Alex Peternel.
Okay, all right. So that we've got under control at the moment. So
yes.
Now, the way that I see this is that Alex Peternel and Paul Hart had both qualified. They were both eligible to go, and then this Alex Peternel came forward and said and approached the National Eventing Committee. Now, is that part of the South African Equestrian Association?
what happens is every discipline has a committee that is responsible for its sport.
Okay.
So show jumping has their own, eventing has their own, and dressage has their own. And then what they do is they appoint they vote in who they would like to be the selectors for their chosen discipline. So that is how that works.
Okay.
And going back to your point is that what actually happened is in the FEI regulations, there is the highest qualified combination, which is the horse
and the rider, yes,
has to be taken into consideration. And what has happened is when the time for the South African Equestrian Federation was to submit their athletes to the Olympics, Alex Peternail's qualified ride, which became lame, it had a tendon problem. So therefore, because the qualified horse became lame, he then technically should not have been eligible for selection.
Of course. Now, I listen. I can understand that. I mean, you can't go. You can't put a rugby player in the field if he's got a broken hamstring, for example.
Correct.
So
Correct.
So basically, what you're saying, it came down to that Alex Peternail's horse was unfit to compete in the Olympics. Okay.
Yes.
And then Paul Hart was put forward by the selectors.
Yes.
Okay.
They officially announced that Paul Hart and Alex Peternail were their selections.
Yes.
To be eligible for selection for the Olympics.
Okay.
And then what had happened was when at the deadline, which was I think around about the 25th of May, Alex's horse was not qualified to be able to ride in the Olympics, so Paul Hart became the selected rider.
One step back, Suzanne. Was there ever only going to be one participant from our equestrian fraternity?
Yes, there was.
So only ever going to be one. Okay, so there was only ever going to be one. So Alex sits there. Paul Hart's horse is already in the UK under quarantine already, etc. He's done all of the qualifications just as Alex Peternail has done. They've done all of the qualifications. Alex now comes, says, "Listen, I've got a problem with the horse. Okay,
yes.
The horse is not right." So then the SAEF submit Hart as the selected athlete to SASCOC, correct?
100% correct.
Okay. So then Alex Peternail surely was informed of this.
Yes, he was. He was informed of it.
Okay.
And then he had put forward another horse.
Yes.
To be able to compete, to qualify. But the crux of the matter is that he only qualified that horse in
June,
a week and a half ago.
Okay.
To be able to compete.
All right.
And what the whole hoo-ha, if I can call it that, is that we feel, or the community feels, and SASCOC actually feel, if you look at the release that they released last night or this morning, that he was the selected athlete.
Yes.
And they backed it. So what happened is Alex Peternail went to the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Okay.
Which governs sports internationally, and to apply, because there was a wording, I would say misinterpretation, because it said that the highest qualified athlete would be the person who would represent our country at the Olympics.
All right, fair.
Now, as I said to you, that the athlete in equestrian is not solely the person, it is the horse as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And obviously, he put this urgent appeal in last week on Friday afternoon for him to compete. And I suppose it is tearing our community apart. It is throwing a very bad light onto South African equestrianism or equestrian sport. But there's a lot of people here that are they're fighting for what they believe in.
No, listen, I can understand that. I'm trying to be as objective as possible over here. I see where this is. There was an objection made by this Alex Peternail, and unfortunately we don't seem to be able to get hold of him. I mean, surely, as much as desperate as everybody wants to compete in the Olympic Games or any kind of major sporting event, surely a person like that, and I mean, you would know because you work in the equestrian industry. I don't know that much about it. He may have qualified using another horse, but surely he wouldn't have been up at the level that Paul Hart would have been.
No, the horse that he has competed on, and I mean, I can stand under correction for this, is he's done 4 events on this horse, 2 of which he pulled out of halfway through. The other one, he had a stop in the cross country, and it was a qualifying round because it was, as we call it, a long format. And then he had the qualifying round this last weekend.
Okay.
Harry, Heartbreak Hill, has had the qualifying rounds for the last 2 years and is the far more experienced horse.
Of course. No, I mean, yeah, that's just logic.
Yes.
The thing that I want to know is why a Sascock? If Sascock's rules have been breached, which they have, even with the objection from Peter Nell, just reading that he may have qualified, but it wasn't within the time frame that was given by Sascock, which I think was end of April, and he qualified the horse in June. Why has Sascock bent down to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, where they have a legitimate case to make their own decision?
As far as I understand it, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has an overruling ability over any national sporting body. So
which is ludicrous.
By their regulations.
I mean, that is completely.
South African.
Yeah, but I mean, that's completely ludicrous. I mean, the Court of Arbitration, as you say, is an international sporting body. I mean, they don't know what's going on, in South Africa or Mauritius or something. I mean, surely, Sascock should have, been able to override them. But I mean, that's completely dictatorial.
It is completely dictatorial, and I, at this stage, would like to applaud Sascock because they have stood by their decision to support Paul Hart in this campaign. And I mean, there's a statement here that I can read to you from their press release. It says, unfortunately, with the ruling of the CAS, which is the Court of Arbitration, we cannot deviate in any way whatsoever, as this ruling gives a clear indication that the selection of Alex Pertinel has been made by CAS, and we are now implementing the decision. And as a good standing member of the IOC, we have to respect that. It comes down to more about the country, I think, more than anything else. And then what they did is they said that even though he had a qualifying round, according to the South African qualifying criteria, Alex Pertinel did not qualify in their eyes. So that is why. And he was told this, and then he took everybody to the Court of Arbitration.
Okay, all right. Di's here, because she knows more about horses than I do.
Don't know about that one. I just want to know, did Alex start with his appeal as soon as Paul was announced as part of the team to be going over to London, or was it just a recent?
We were only told. Paul was only informed of this on Thursday evening. So he was in a situation where he's sitting in London. He didn't have any legal representation. He had no counsel. He had to scramble to get attorneys and barristers and all the rest of it in the space of 6 hours to go jump on a train from Cornwall, travel 6 hours to be in London by 8 o'clock to hear this appeal. So. The word ambush comes into my mind, but I suppose I am a little bit skewed on this whole.
No, but I mean, that's understand. Listen, I've got to tell you, Suzanne, I read Paul Hart's press release, and I was nearly choking because this is, to me, very, very unfair. But I mean, one should get the other side of the story, and that would be Alex Pertinel. Unfortunately, we can't seem to get hold of him. We do know that Paul will be chatting to Darren and John around about just over an hour from here on Balls Visual Radio. It just seems incredibly tragic that something like this has happened, or that as much as I do respect SASCOC for what they have said and how they've stood behind Paul, even though the Court of Arbitration of Sport has come in and vetoed them, I really feel that SASCOC perhaps should have tried to get us an extra entrant. But I suppose these things are done months and years in advance.
No, these are done months and years. This has been a year in the making, and what we could not field a full team. So therefore, we were only allocated one Olympic berth because of the region which we fall in. And you say tragic. This whole exercise has come at a huge, a mammoth personal cost to Paul.
I can imagine.
He has had to. His business has suffered. He has. He's slept in the back of horse boxes to save money at the shows overseas, just so that he can compete. He has sold everything conceivable that anybody can do. He has sacrificed more than any of us will even appreciate. Us that are obviously his support crew know.
Sure.
But he's risked it all. He has, as you said, gone balls to the wall, and he has done everything in his power to be able to do this. And as a South African, taking a step away from this, he had captured the imagination of the equestrian fraternity, and he had finally made this unachievable dream achievable. He hadn't gone overseas to live for however many years as Alex has done and competed there, where it's an easy road. It's, they have 4 shows a week, and you have a pick of 4 shows. I mean, Paul's had to compete here on his horses in South Africa as a top level show jumper as well as teach and earn a living. I mean, he is not a trust fund baby. He is not somebody who is moneyed. He is like you and I, who makes month to month, and now this is gone.
I can hear the despair in your voice, and I think there are a lot of people who have been following the story who feel equally, I think, unfortunately sickened by it.
Yes.
It's incredibly sad what has happened, and as much as we can, you can get a letter from SASCOC or a letter from somebody else saying, "Oh, we're terribly sorry and we do support you." He unfortunately will not be at the Olympic Games this year.
He will not be at the. Well, we're still fighting. We will go down fighting. We'll go down in flames, as they say. I think the saddest thing of all is that Heartbreak Hill will never run in the Olympics.
That's very, very sad. Very, very sad. Suzanne, I just want to know, I mean, you've sent me through the press release from Paul, as well as the press release from the South African Equestrian Association. Am I allowed to post that up on our Balls website? Is that okay?
Absolutely, with the greatest of pleasure.
All right, Suzanne, listen, we appreciate you coming to speak under, I think, very trying circumstances. We wish you well in your battle. I can only just say that if this had happened to me, I don't think I'd be as composed as you are, put it that way.
I'm just very lucky. I have a great support team. I have people like Kathy from Rensburg, who has been our rock all along, and a great family, and a husband that has wanted to stay up with me all night last night to support me. So the journey has been hard, but we have got great people around us, and we can only hope that maybe our last attempt, which we are busy with at the moment, is successful. But Paul will always be our true Olympian.
Well, there we go. Suzanne, we wish you well in your endeavors and support you 100%. Thanks for your time. And for those, of course, in about an hour from now, Darren and John, right on Balls, will be chatting to Paul Hart live from London. But it is a desperately unfortunate situation that has become to Paul Hart. And I think rather selfishly, from the other person, the other individual, which is incredibly sad.
Gears on balls.co.za with Sasha Martinengo.
He's kept himself out of trouble.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.